if you try and chill out and just treat everything as a practice, just in your head, be like, okay, this isn't going to be the real thing. I'm going to, this is just a run through. I'll do the real thing later.
Right.
Before you know it, you've actually come up with a really cool idea that you can bring to finish, and everything's good.
Hey, welcome to Arts and Cars. The aim of the show is to get a sneak peek into other artists' screens and into their process. Each artist that comes on the show has 45 minutes to create a piece of artwork from scratch. Today on the show we have James Hayball, who's a concept artist. And in the show we really take a deep dive into the fundamentals of digital painting and why, for James, Photoshop is the best tool for the job. So let's check it out. Lovely. So next step of the process is I've got a kind of a random theme generator. So I'm going to click the button on this, see what we get, and then maybe we can kind of discuss an idea.
All right.
Yeah. It's the first time we've looked nervous.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's see what comes up. You never know, it might be kind.
Okay.
Right. Angelic.
I'm
going to make things harder.
Angelic. I think I can create like a nice environment painting, with angelic, with some cool light rays and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Almost maybe like a heavenly landscape. Yeah. Could be cool. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to virtually start the clock, and you have 45 minutes from now, and I want to see everything that you do.
Excellent. Okay. Let's start with let's make this portrait. I think normally when I tend to start pieces roughly, I tend to kind of like get a rough idea for the size as well, like a smaller working size anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just generally because you can throw the digital paint around, if you will.
Gotcha.
A bit easier without the computer chugging. It's funny actually though, because with my with learning how to paint and draw. Even I did this illustration degree for 3 years. I actually didn't really learn much because my heart wasn't in it. I didn't at the time. I didn't, it's actually YouTube process videos that I owe to having a career.
Right.
Basically, it is down to watching them when I was doing this horrible kind of office job and having an understanding team leader that was actually really, really cool and understood I was not happy in my job, that kind of just let me watch these YouTube videos in between calls, which is hardly against the grain. And she could have probably got fired if she'd have got discovered, but bless her, she let me do that. And it's just through that and being a bit obsessive that, I was lucky enough that, it kind of worked out in that way.
Well, won't that be ironic that now you're potentially making a process video that someone could be inspired by at their work?
Yeah. I don't know about you, but to be honest, that's the one that really, really gets me is with working. It's people getting something from what I do.
Right.
That really, that's what gets me excited. I do a few, not many. I do a few conventions every year. One of the main ones I do is something called UK Games Expo. It's for board games, and it's based in Birmingham. It's in the NEC Arena.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a whole bunch of hangars, if you will. But it's probably one of the biggest in Europe. And I'm lucky enough that they've basically the owners of it have basically allowed me to come along as a guest artist the last 3 years, I think it is, which I've been very, very lucky about. I haven't had to pay for a table, which has been just really, really cool of them.
Oh, nice.
And it gave me a chance to really get my art out there as well, when I was really trying to kind of make it as a freelance illustrator. And they kind of helped give me that opportunity. But the long drawn out point about it, is that doing that, after a few years, basically of me kind of turning up with a lot of my, because I basically get a load of my prints printed, so I have something to sell, and after a few years of giving seminars and stuff like that they'd asked me to do with other artists, you eventually I'd started having kids come up to me with their parents being like, and the parents being, like saying, my kid saw your seminar with the other artists. He really liked your attitude. Cause I always try and make it inviting to anyone.
Yeah.
I hate elitism. I hate it in any kind of industry. It's like anybody has the right to be an artist or, kind of be an animator, an illustrator. It's just hard work. That's all,
Yeah.
And so I always try and veer all my talks and stuff that I give towards that anybody can do it if you want it bad enough. And I think that kind of strikes a chord with people sometimes. And so I'd have parents come up being like, my kid, he's not really interested in much, but he does love what he really struck a chord what you said. And those little things like that are what really, it sounds really corny, but makes it worthwhile. It really does.
So tell me a little, let's dive into a bit of process. We're seeing some stuff now. So it looks like you're concentrating on laying down those values, which are, super important for a landscape. So talk me through the process of what's going on in your head there.
Okay, right. Generally, with a landscape, no matter what it is, I kind of, initially I tried to kind of start on shapes.
Okay.
So core shapes, and effectively, if you're taking a traditional landscape like this, it doesn't matter if it's a spaceport, if it's mountains, if it's whatever it is. I try and think of it technically of what is appealable. So effectively, what I mean by that is a background, a foreground, and middle ground. I think it's good just to start there, really, just because it's basically it's kind of ingrained in everybody's head, like these kind of things. And you can really kind of just push it from there. Like, again, that's something that changes, to make an image go from like a fantasy to a sci-fi. It's just it's a matter of shapes. That's it. There's no real difference, really. If you can paint, a decent environment with decent values, you can do both, really.
I can kind of tell that you're implementing that with, you're having the canvas kind of really far away. And I guess you're just looking at the overall value and is it working in a smaller scale? And then if it does, then the details will come later and they'll work. Absolutely.
That's a very good point. That's what I was going to mention next is that, you'll probably notice me zooming in and out a lot, generally because the details are just not important to me at the moment. The thing that's important to me is, does the image, the composition work as a whole? That's the important thing.
So and I can see it as you're zooming out. I can see almost like what you're trying to do, and you can see that it is working. And then little bits that are wrong, you're coming in and sort of amending and making a little bit darker here, a little bit lighter there. And you're coming in and out, and I can almost see into your headspace. How that's working.
Cool. This is the thing. It's actually the fundamentals with for example, with environment paintings. It's not rocket science. You can, like, that's not to say that anybody can create a decent painting. Half the time, I know I can't. I still struggle a lot. With it, and if you could see my virtual bin, if you will, of failed paintings, there is a lot there, but I think that's okay. It's all learning, you've got to try and take something good from it, take something good from everything, if you will. So it's always an experiment. And also something I heard from, I can't remember what artist it was now, feel bad about that, but basically, an artist always said to me, just I read, just chill out if you've got a job on, and it's a big, even if it's a big client, and you're like, oh my god, I can't screw this up. It's got to be awesome. Just chill out. And what the guy meant by that is just treat it like it's a it's a practice. And I think what he's trying to get at with that is if you're too nervous and you're worrying too much, you tense up, your muscles tense up. What you're drawing becomes very static, very robotic, and it just doesn't kind of you just don't get great results. You stress out. If you try and chill out and just treat everything as a practice, just in your head be like, okay, this isn't going to be the real thing. I'm going this is just a run through. I'll do the real thing later.
Right.
Before you know it, you've actually come up with a really cool idea that you can bring to finish, and everything's good.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. I do kind of tend to ramble a little bit when I'm.
No, I think I know what you mean, and sort of similar to that is, you sort of put so much pressure on yourself when you see this sort of empty canvas, right? And you have all these ideas in your head of how good that's gonna turn out, and then if you kind of go halfway down the journey and it's not looking the way you think it would, then you'll give up, right? But if you just don't have those expectations from the get go, maybe you'll turn out with a great piece of art.
Absolutely. And this is the thing. It's all about the best artists I've ever kind of seen, watched in interviews or process videos, are the ones that are just very kind of chilled out with it. Just very, there's a guy called Ian McCaig. I don't know if you heard of him or not. Ian, if you haven't, okay, cool, you've heard him. Yeah, so basically he's famous for inventing Darth Maul.
Right.
The initial, the first three, the first episode 1 out of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. But the guy he's been illustrating for a long, long time, but he's just so relaxed with everything, and he's still got this childlike wonder about everything he does. And the man's, I'm not sure exactly how old he is. He's old. he's pretty old. He's been, he's been doing it a long time, but he's got his childlike wonder and amazement with everything in art still to this day, even though he's been doing it for years. It's still incredible. It's very inspiring. Mm-hmm. And this guy just he does he works for all the any big client you could hope for. This guy's done it, so to kind of have that kind of not real. He doesn't really seem to have any fear about it, if you know what I mean. It's like, well, I'm just gonna have fun with it. That's all I can do, and we'll go from there. And it's always inspiring to me when you kind of listen to interviews or watch interviews of artists that that tenured and that that cool about it. Opposed to I don't know, like opposed to somebody being like, well, it's really important. You do this and you must. No, it's creative. I
know. So, I mean, speaking of kind of software and stuff, is Photoshop just your baby, your go-to? Is everything done in this?
Absolutely. A big percentage. I wouldn't want to, put numbers down, but a big percentage of digital artists around the world will basically use Photoshop. There's still a lot to be said about traditional artists. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of respect for. In fact, there's still a lot of traditional artists within Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast, should I say, the company that owns them.
Right.
And there's a big market as well, an ever increasing market for traditional art, which is great. I would very, very much recommend to any artist starting out that you need to learn Photoshop. Really, it makes you a whole lot more versatile. And to be honest, probably 3D nowadays as well. I'm 3D something I need to really look into, like Maya and what's the other one?
Cinema like 4D is kind of primarily the motion graphic go-to these days. And
I'd say you kind of need to really you need to get that under your belt. I think I'm saying this. I'm a complete hypocrite. It's something I need to learn. Really, like Photoshop's all I really know. But then again, I guess there's the other thing of like, well, I enjoy just painting, creating traditional looking art.
I've noticed, I mean, one of the greatest things about Photoshop is the adoption of sort of layers, and that's sort of kind of standard in any package that you get now, and everyone's got used to working with layers. But I've noticed that you're kind of iterating on one. You'll add a new layer, put some stuff down, put some paint down, and then flatten it quite often. Has this always been the way that you work, or?
It kind of is. It depends on the job. If it's a very clinical job that requires multiple different layers on handing in, then I will be a bit more clinical with layers. However, if it's just generally a traditional painting that somebody, clients said, look, we need a painting of, I don't know, whatever, a dwarven stronghold, I don't know, whatever, then I will normally just kind of go in quite lax with if I'm comfortable with the subject matter anyway,
Yeah.
I'll just go in quite lax with my layering. Generally as well, because I like my work to look as traditional as possible.
Right.
So I feel that if you're too clinical with the layers sometimes, or at least with me anyway, if I'm too clinical with the layers, it can come out looking quite cold.
Okay. And sometimes you get those sort of nice lost edges that you might have, you wouldn't have done yourself, but just these kind of overlapping layers create really nice happy accidents.
Happy accident, absolutely. And those happy accidents have really helped me create personal art. Well, actually, no, both client work and personal art, but have really helped, been the catalyst to some great art that I've done in the past that I never thought, this, you never do you? Like when you do a piece of work, like clients are going to know this piece of work. This is going to get me work.
Right.
You just, sometimes you just do some things sometimes, and sometimes some paintings or some work you do just takes off and people are like, what is that? I like that. As an artist, I find people seem to love the stuff that you're not, maybe you're not quite crazy about.
Yeah.
I don't know, sod's law, I don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting. I've certainly experienced that myself.
All right. So what we're going to do now is, so it's got to be, I'm keeping in mind the subject. You said it's got to be angelic. So I thought about having some epic god ray or something shining down.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
What I'll do is I'll just lay this on and just experiment with it a little bit just to see. Right. So that's kind of cool. But bring it back a bit because it's still a bit mental.
It's been about 23 minutes.
Okay.
Coming up to the halfway mark.
Okay. So that's totally cool. I kind of figured with what I was going to just do a black and white tonal study, if you will. Normally what I'll do with paintings, because that just to touch on that, is I normally start with black and white.
Okay.
Just because generally I find it a bit easier to start with black and white and then work in the color after that, because it's overwhelming values and color for me sometimes. It's
gotcha.
A bit much. So yeah,
you like to concentrate on those values and then get color in after.
Maybe that background's still a little bit too dark, so we can always lighten that up. But now I've got those core features. What now is just simply kind of a lonely mountain in the background. We can start adding stuff if we want. There we go. So yeah, so we're let me start up a bit, put a bit more atmosphere in that. We can start adding stuff. So like this, you're talking about these happy accidents as well. We can start trying to see things in our painting. So, this was just kind of a splodge at first, but it's kind of looking like a lake now. Maybe there's like a river settlement.
Okay. Maybe there is.
Yeah, and I feel like I've gone a little bit Bob Ross here, but happy little settlement.
Yeah, it's just our little secret, this one.
Yeah. So, things like that. So, and then from that, I'm thinking, well, if I, suggest that there's maybe some kind of life there, let's bring it on into the foreground, and maybe there's a rock with a, kind of, spear or something,
nice
snag or something, and kind of using kind of little tricks to divert the eye. You can really start kind of playing around with even kind of like what that hopefully the viewer's going to see as well. So directing the eye to what you want the viewer to see effectively in your painting. We're talking about adding maybe a bit of color, weren't we?
Yeah, well, you can go whichever way you want with it. I was just curious if you weren't going to do color. I'd like to understand the process anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But if
well, these videos are all about kind of process and talking about things. So yeah, it'd be a good idea. So effectively, if we flatten that down, so we've got it flattened down. Generally, the really nice thing with Photoshop, of course, is it works on a base of layers. So it's actually, if you have a base knowledge of it, it's really hard to mess things up because you can always go back. Overlay is generally a good one to use to start off with because it just gives it a bit more grit, I find. It's a bit too saturated, a bit too bright with color.
Okay.
You can't use that. And what you generally do is do a local color. So it's almost like if you're going to do a wash on a painting. So boom, immediately there.
Wow. Yeah.
So, because we've, hopefully kind of got my values kind of okay there. That's why even with one splash of color, it's like it kind of does leap out at you because you've got those values down.
Isn't it crazy how much that affects the mood of the piece as well?
Absolutely. And this is a great thing. And so from there, you can really go crazy with this thing, like we can, and this is the thing I love about experimenting with Photoshop and the fact that, it's like you can mess up. Obviously trying to be mindful of those values that you've established, foreground, middle ground and background. You don't want to lose that separation.
Here's a little fun topic. In Photoshop, what is, I guess, either your favorite shortcut, which can't be Control and Z, or just one that you think maybe people don't know and it's, it helps in your process, is really valuable?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I'd say, to be honest, to be fair, it is a shortcut key I've set to make it accessible. But
that's fine.
I would say, for me, it's Command and Q. I work on a Mac. Okay, it's Command and Q. What Command and Q does for me is it quickly flips canvas.
Yeah, I noticed you were doing that.
Yeah, if you're working on a painting, I do it way too much, I think, to be honest, because I'm literally flipping the canvas 20 million times.
Right.
But it's a good way to reset your brain a bit. So if you're working a couple of minutes on a painting and it's kind of starts on this orientation this way, doing that it helps your brain notice things that maybe not quite correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
That maybe you wouldn't have seen.
Isn't it crazy how, back when a traditional art was the only way you could produce a piece of artwork, you would have to draw something or paint something painstakingly for hours. And then you'd have to come back the next day and look at it to figure out that something was wrong from the beginning. Yeah. And we can do it with a shortcut now. Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy. And it does really make me think, because I would love to go into purely traditional media in a few years' time when I have a bit more time with it. And I painted traditionally when I was a teenager. Again, looking back on it, I wasn't that good. I thought I was a lot better than I was, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm definitely going to go through all those horrors of, oh God, is this the right thing to do? Am I doing this right? Especially because I'd love to go into oils, and oils are so I don't know what's going on with this. Sometimes Photoshop's a little bit.
Well, the good thing is that you have got this attitude where you're flattening the layers constantly, so you are working in a very organic way. So perhaps you won't have too many of the bad habits that come along with digital painting, because you're kind of used to just doing that.
But that's kind of, hopefully that's one of my reasons why as well, is to, like, when I go into digital, hopefully that'll help. Who knows? Hopefully it will. I hope it doesn't just bite me in the face, but
I'm sure it will.
It's just that would be it would be great if that if it kind of paid off a little bit, and it kind of did help me down the line. Digital art for me at the moment is what pays the bills. So if I have the time really to do that in the future.
Well, isn't that just a lovely thing to be able to say?
Absolutely. I feel lucky beyond belief that I can say that, and especially as I it took me a long time and a lot of hard work to get to that position where people would be willing to actually pay me to do this. It's important. I think it's important to kind of also try not to be too hard on yourself as well. I definitely have been guilty of being hard on myself in the past, and it's people like my good friends and my wife that remind me, like, well, you've only been doing it for X amount of years. Give yourself a break. Like look how far you've come in the time that and stuff like that. And sometimes you do need people to kind of metaphorically slap you around the face.
For sure.
With that and be like, look, get it together. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Chill. It's okay. Okie dokie. Well, yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just been kind of a brief kind of sketch, really.
So you mentioned you were previously in a band. And I'm curious to find out if you listen to music while you're drawing, if that's a source of inspiration or...
Yeah, I do listen to music while I'm drawing. A lot of soundtracks, actually, and blogs. A lot of soundtracks and kind of vlogs recently. So I guess not so much music, but soundtracks, yes. A lot. I'm effectively I'm a metalhead at heart. I love my rock and I love my metal, but you can't listen to Slayer all day while painting. You'll go insane. You literally will.
That's a funny image.
Yeah, it's and especially much to, I work from home, especially much to the chagrin of my wife. If she's at home and I'm there, head banged away trying to paint dwarfs or whatever. It's a bit weird and it's a bit off-putting. But yeah, so something quite chilled I quite like. I'm a big fan of epic soundscapes.
Okay.
And that they stuff like that always really excites me.
Cool. That's a nice layer that you're putting down there. Is that just a little bit of fog and atmosphere in that front cliff?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It's just it's just basically helping divide the kind
foreground.
Of the foreground, with the background a little bit. It's just a kind of quick method to kind of really help with that. You can get
a minute left. Sorry, just chucking there.
Minute left. Brilliant. Okay. You can get a little bit carried away with that again, especially with if you're working on stuff that's going to go to print. Sometimes fog layers that can really mess with printers. If it's too foggy, it can come out quite grainy and just not great.
Good to know.
So that's something that can be a bit of a problem. But then again, putting your artwork to print, that's a whole new art form in its own right. Yeah.
I might have to call it there.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Right, cool.
Beautiful stuff. Our angelic mountainside.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully, there we go. Right, okay. Hopefully that's what you got out of it.
We got lots out of it.
Okay. Hopefully I wasn't. I am quite aware I do ramble quite a lot when I'm trying to concentrate on other things as well. So
not at all. I'm very surprised though, because a lot of people want to concentrate on this stuff, and you're clearly a very good multitasker.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, like I say, it's not the most detailed painting I've produced in my career, but hopefully it kind of illustrated the point, and that's kind of the point of the video, right?
Yeah. Do you feel like you get into a kind of like an autonomous almost flow, if you like, where you can almost do this thing as second nature in the background?
Certain things I can. With environments, I'm a lot more confident with environments than I am figure work. Even though I'm starting to do quite a bit of figure work now, figure work, it takes a lot more concentration for me because anatomy is, I'm sure, as an animator, you'll know this, anatomy is so finite and so complex that I still need to concentrate. Some artists I watch and they can literally bang out a figure with no reference and it'll look great. And I thought maybe I could do that, and I learned the hard way I can't. I just can't. So it's a lot harder to do that. Where, of course, a mountain, it's effectively a big blob. So obviously you need to know your fundamentals, but it's a lot easier to make that look correct. I
think you're underselling yourself there a little bit, but I guess something that's so prominent in this picture is just, I guess, that use of lighting and color in this space. But it's really, really nice. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was great to talk to you.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Scott. Thank you.
No worries, buddy.
Cool. Okay.
Well, I'll be watching you as well with any new work that comes out. I'm always a big fan of your stuff, so keep at it. All right.
No worries. You too. Thank you for your time. All right.
See you later, buddy. Ciao.